The heart of the storm. The stolen Cythery skiff screamed through the void, dodging artillery fire from both the pursuing mercenaries and the Zephyrian command ship ahead. Lyra's hands were locked on the controls, her knuckles white. "Joran! Any bright ideas?" she shouted over the engine's roar. The Ashborn captain was already typing frantically on a cracked holopad. "Only one, pray." Kalon, his injured wing still bleeding, braced himself against the hull. "There's an auxiliary hangar on the ship's underbelly. Weakest shields." Lyra didn't hesitate. She angled the skiff into a nosedive, the G-forces pressing them into their seats. The Zephyrian ship loomed, its storm shield generators crackling with blue lightning. "Brace for impact." The skiff tore through the energy barrier like a bullet through flesh. Alarms wailed as they crashed into the hangar, skidding across the deck in a shower of sparks. Lyra was the first out, pistol raised. The hangar was empty, too empty. Kalon's wings twitched. Trap. Joran checked his rifle. Obviously. The traitor's gambit. They moved through the ship's arteries, avoiding patrols. Ellora's data chip had given them schematics. Gaia's wrath was linked to the command center, deep in the ship's core. Then the intercom hissed to life. "Admiral Kalon." Draxus's voice dripped with mockery. "Did you really think you could steal what belongs to the Dominion?" Kalon's jaw tightened. "Show yourself, coward." A hologram flickered ahead, Draxus, standing before a pulsing orb of energy. The heart of Gaia's wrath. And beside him, Ellora, bound and bloodied. "You were always weak, Kalon," Draxus sneered. "The High Council knew it. That's why they sent me to clean up your mess." Lyra's finger hovered over her trigger. "Let her go." Draxus laughed. "Oh, Commander. You don't understand. She's not a prisoner, she's the key." Ellora lifted her head, her voice raw. "The weapon doesn't obey commands. It chooses." Then Draxus plunged a dagger into her chest. The awakening. Lyra's breath froze. Ellora collapsed, but instead of blood, light spilled from the wound. The orb behind Draxus flared, tendrils of energy lashing out like living things. Kalon's wings snapped open. The heart, it's bonding with him. Draxus convulsed as the energy wrapped around him, his body twisting. His voice became something other, layered with mechanical resonance. Directive accepted. Atmospheric purge initiated. The ship shuddered. Alarms blared, Earth's image on the view screen flickered as Gaia's wrath powered to full activation. Joran cursed. "He's turning it on Earth." Lyra didn't think. She moved. The fractured alliance. They fought through waves of Zephyrian soldiers, racing toward the command center. Kalon's wind blades carved a path, but with every step, his strength wavered. His connection to the storms, his birthright, was fading. Lyra grabbed his arm. "What's wrong?" He snarled in frustration. "The heart, it's disrupting my abilities." Joran tossed them both breather masks. "Then we do this the human way." The command center doors blew open. Inside, Draxus floated at the center of the storm, his body half consumed by the weapon's energy. The orb pulsed like a living thing, its voice echoing. Hostile elements detected. Elimination protocol engaged. Wind blades sharper than steel slashed toward them. Lyra dove, rolling behind a console. Kalon wasn't fast enough, a blade sliced across his chest, sending him crashing to his knees. Lyra's pulse roared in her ears. "No." Then, a whisper in the static. "Commander Voss." Ellora's voice. But Ellora was dead. The scientist's hologram flickered beside the orb, her form translucent. "The heart isn't a weapon. It's a judge. And it's chosen you. The choice." Lyra didn't hesitate. She sprinted toward the orb, dodging Draxus's attacks. The energy lashed at her, burning her skin, but she grabbed it. Agony. Clarity. The world dissolved into data streams and ancient voices. You are not Zephyrian, the heart intoned. Why should you wield me? Lyra gritted her teeth. Because I'm the one who'll save them. Both our peoples. Silence. Then. Prove it. The orb flared. Draxus screamed as the energy tore him apart, his body disintegrating into the storm. And Lyra. Lyra understood. The covenant broken. She opened her eyes. The command center was in ruins. Kalon stared at her, his silver eyes wide. What did you do? Lyra flexed her fingers. The orb's energy coiled around her like a second skin. I made a deal. The ship shook violently. Joran stumbled to the view screen. We've got a problem. Earth's image was now wreathed in crimson light. Gaia's wrath was still active, but its trajectory had changed. It wasn't targeting Earth anymore. It was targeting the Zephyrian fleet. The fall of the Dominion. Kalon's voice was hollow. You're destroying us. Lyra met his gaze. No. I'm freeing you. She raised her hand. The heart's power surged, a single pulse of energy rippling across the stars. Every Zephyrian ship in orbit stalled, their storm engines flickering out. Joran gaped. Did you just? Disabled them, Lyra confirmed. Not destroyed. Kalon's wings trembled. The High Council will see this as treason. Lyra stepped closer, her voice low. Then let them come. She touched his chest, where his wound still bled silver. The question is, whose side are you on? The ship's calm crackled. A new voice, Cythery. Commander Voss. You fulfilled your bargain. The planet is spared. Now, surrender the weapon. Lyra smiled. Yeah. About that. She closed her fist. The heart detonated, not in destruction, but in a wave of light that washed over Earth, healing the scorched atmosphere. The Cythery commander's roar of fury was the last thing they heard before the ship's engines failed completely. The aftermath. In the silence that followed, Kalon exhaled. You've made enemies of 2 empires today. Lyra shrugged. Just another Tuesday. Joran groaned. We are so dead. Kalon looked at Lyra, really looked at her. What now? She held out her hand. Now, we finish this. And for the first time, he took it. The war room's last breath. The air in the underground bunker tasted of burnt circuitry and desperation. Commander Lyra Voss stared at the holographic display flickering above the cracked table, a sea of red dots swallowing the last blue strongholds of Earth. 3 months of relentless Zephyrian assaults had reduced cities to glass, armies to ash. They're demanding unconditional surrender, growled General Riot, his cybernetic eye glitching. You're the only one left they'll listen to, Commander. Lyra clenched her fists. So I'm to kneel for the Windlords? No, Riot said, sliding a neural chip across the table. You're to buy time. This holds the codes to Iron Shield, our last orbital cannon. Use it if negotiations fail. The devil with azure wings. The Zephyrian flagship Storm's Mercy loomed like a blade in the void. As Lyra stepped onto its gravity deck, the air hummed with restrained violence. Admiral Kalon awaited her, tall, winged, his silver-banded horns catching the dim light. His gaze was a storm barely contained. Commander Voss. His voice resonated like distant thunder. Kneel, and we'll spare your remaining cities. Lyra didn't blink. On Earth, we stand as equals. Kalon's wings flexed. The air pressure spiked, crushing Lyra's ribs. She gritted her teeth, refusing to buckle. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. Defiant to the last, he mused, releasing the pressure. Perhaps the prophecy speaks true. The whispered prophecy. Confined to a guest chamber, Lyra overheard two Zephyrian guards. The Windlord's rise requires one who won't bend, a steel soul to temper the storm. Before she could process it, the door hissed open. Kalon stood there, no longer in armor but a flowing silver tunic. "Walk with me," he ordered. He showed her the ship's core, a swirling maelstrom of energy. "Our power comes from atmospheric manipulation. But yours." He eyed her. "Yours comes from something deeper. Will. The assassin's gale." Later, as Lyra reviewed treaty terms, the vents exploded. A masked Zephyrian lunged, wind blades carving the air. Lyra rolled, grabbing a shard of broken glass. "You die, human," the assassin snarled, "and the prophecy dies with you." Kalon burst in, intercepting the killing gust. Their clash shattered the room, a dance of razor winds and brute force. Lyra jammed the glass into the assassin's wing joint. With a scream, he faltered. Kalon pinned him. "Who sent you?" The assassin laughed. "The High Council won't let you bond with a human." Then he convulsed, dead by hidden poison. The pact. Blood dripped from Kalon's talons. "They fear you," he said quietly. "Which means you're more dangerous than I realized." Lyra wiped her brow. "Or more valuable." A slow smile curved his lips. "Then let's discuss leverage." As the ship hurtled toward Earth-scorched skies, Lyra realized, this wasn't surrender. It was the first move in a far deadlier game. The fractured Dominion. The storm's mercy shuddered as it entered Earth's crippled defense grid. Commander Lyra Voss stood at the observation deck, watching the planet's scarred surface, once blue and green, now marred by the ashen aftermath of Zephyrian windstrikes. Behind her, Admiral Kalon's wings twitched in agitation. "Your people are stubborn," he remarked. "Most species break after the first orbital bombardment." Lyra didn't turn. "We've had practice surviving monsters." A tense silence stretched between them. The assassination attempt had changed things. Kalon no longer treated her as a prisoner, nor as an equal, but as a puzzle he couldn't solve. Then the ship's comm crackled. "Admiral, we're detecting unauthorized transmissions from the surface." Human resistance. Kalon's silver eyes narrowed. "Or a trap." Lyra smirked. "Or both." The ghost in the storm. They descended in a cloaked dropship, cutting through the sulfuric haze of what was once New Mumbai. The ruins were eerily silent, no birds, no wind, just the distant hum of dying machines. Then, a voice from the shadows, "You're either very brave or very stupid, Commander." A figure emerged, tall, clad in scavenged armor, his face hidden behind a rebreather. Captain Joran, leader of the Ashborn, Earth's last guerrilla force. Lyra exhaled in relief. "Joran. Still causing trouble, I see." He pulled off his mask, revealing a face lined with scars and defiance. "Trouble's all we've got left." Then his gaze flicked to Kalon. "And you brought him?" Kalon's hand rested on the hilt of his wind blade. "Choose your next words carefully, human." Joran spat. "Or what? You'll blow me away." "Been there." Lyra stepped between them. "Enough. We're here because someone on your side tried to kill me." Joran's smirk faded. "Not my side. But I know who did." The traitor among the Windlords. Deep beneath the ruins, the Ashborn's hideout was a maze of stolen tech and desperation. Joran played a hacked transmission, a Zephyrian voice, speaking in their native tongue. The Admiral's obsession with the human jeopardizes the prophecy. Eliminate her, and the Dominion remains pure. Kalon's wings flared. "That's Commander Draxus." Lyra crossed her arms. "Your second in command." "Was." Kalon's voice turned lethal. Now he's a dead man. Joran snorted. Great. So your own people want you both dead. What's the plan? Lyra met Kaelan's gaze. We find the source of that prophecy. And we use it. The scientist who defied the storm. Joran led them deeper into the tunnels, to a sealed chamber where a lone figure hunched over a flickering hologram. Dr. Elora, once the Zephyrian Dominion's chief scientist, now a fugitive. She turned, her silver-streaked wings folded tightly. Admiral. I wondered when you'd come. Kaelan's expression darkened. You were exiled for heresy. Elora smiled bitterly. And yet, here I am, the only one who understands what's really happening. She tapped the hologram, an ancient Zephyrian text. The Windlord shall rise not by conquest, but by covenant. Steel must temper the storm, or both shall perish. Lyra frowned. What does that mean? Elora's gaze locked onto hers. It means you're not just a pawn, Commander. You're the key. The weapon beneath the earth. Before Elora could explain, alarms blared. Joran cursed. Draxus found us. The walls trembled as Zephyrian wind drills tore through the tunnels. Kaelan grabbed Lyra's arm. We need to leave. Now. But Elora didn't move. There's something you need to see first. She opened a vault, revealing a massive, dormant machine. Lyra's breath caught. Is that? Gaia's wrath, Joran confirmed. Our last-ditch terraformer. Turns atmosphere into weapons-grade plasma. Kaelan's grip tightened. Activate that, and you'll scorch the planet yourselves. Elora's smile was grim. Exactly. The choice. The ceiling cracked, dust raining down. Draxus's voice boomed through the tunnels. Admiral. You betray your own kind for a human. The High Council has ordered your execution. Kaelan bared his teeth. Then let them try. Lyra turned to Joran. Can you hold them off? He grinned, hefting a plasma rifle. Long enough for you to do something stupid. Good. She faced Elora. How do we stop this war? The scientist tapped the hologram again. The prophecy isn't about domination. It's about balance. She pointed to Lyra, then Kaelan. You two are the storm and the steel. Together, you can do what neither can alone. Kaelan's wings shuddered. And if we refuse? A massive explosion rocked the chamber. Elora's voice was barely audible over the chaos. Then Earth burns. And the Dominion falls with it. Captured. The tunnel collapsed behind them in a roar of dust and debris. Lyra coughed, blinking against the grit, her pulse hammering. Kaelan's grip on her arm was iron, his wings half-spread to shield her from falling rubble. Move. Joran's voice was barely audible over the chaos. They sprinted through the crumbling passage, Elora leading the way with eerie calm. The scientist's fingers danced over a wrist-mounted device, mapping their escape. Then, a blast of pressurized wind tore through the corridor ahead. Lyra skidded to a halt. Zephyrian shock troops materialized from the dust, their wind blades humming. At their head stood Commander Draxus, his dark wings flared in triumph. Admiral Kaelan, he sneered. The High Council will enjoy breaking you. Kaelan's hand went to his weapon, but Elora grabbed his wrist. Not here. Lyra didn't wait. She lunged, driving her elbow into the nearest soldier's throat. The Zephyrian staggered, and she wrenched his blade free, spinning to block a slicing gust of wind. For a heartbeat, the fight balanced on a knife's edge, then the ground shuddered. A deafening groan echoed through the tunnels. Joran's eyes widened. Oh, hell. Gaia's wrath, it's activating. The third player. The walls split. Not from Zephyrian wind tech, but from something older. A massive drill bit, forged from blackened alloy, erupted through the rock. The shockwave sent them all sprawling. Lyra rolled, catching a glimpse of insignia on the drill's flank, a serpent coiled around a planet. The Scytheri Empire. Draxus hissed. Impossible. Armored figures poured from the drill, their exosuits hissing with hydraulic menace. Scytheri shock troops, ruthless mercenaries who carved up dying worlds. Their leader, a towering figure with a voice like grinding metal, stepped forward. Commander Voss. Admiral Kalon. You're coming with us. Lyra spat blood. And if we say no? The Scytheri commander didn't answer. His fist moved, faster than should have been possible. The last thing Lyra saw was the butt of his rifle rushing at her face. The cage. Consciousness returned in fragments. Cold metal beneath her. The hum of engines. The acrid tang of Scytheri bioaugments. Lyra's wrists were bound with energy cuffs. Across the cell, Kalon slumped against the wall, one wing bent at an unnatural angle. Elora and Joran were nowhere in sight. She tested the cuffs. You alive, Windlord? Kalon's eyes flicked open, molten silver in the dim light. Unfortunately. Any idea why the Scytheri want us? His jaw tightened. They're scavengers. They smell weakness. The door hissed open. The Scytheri commander loomed, his face hidden behind a mirrored helm. You misunderstand. We don't want you alive. He tossed a holopad between them. The image showed Gaia's wrath, fully active, its plasma coils pulsing. Lyra's stomach dropped. That's a planet killer. Correct, the Scytheri said. And your scientist friend just handed its codes to the Zephyrian High Council. Kalon snarled. Elora wouldn't. She didn't have a choice. The commander leaned in. Draxus has her. And in 6 hours, that weapon will turn Earth into a funeral pyre. The bargain. Lyra's mind raced. You're telling us this why? The Scytheri straightened. Because we prefer our prey breathing. A dead world has no resources to strip. He tapped his wrist. A map flickered to life, a Zephyrian command ship, orbiting the weapons control node. Get aboard. Deactivate Gaia's wrath. In return, we'll spare what's left of your people. Kalon laughed bitterly. And if we refuse? The Scytheri's voice didn't change. Then we glass the planet ourselves and sell your bones as curiosities. The door sealed behind him, leaving silence. Lyra exhaled. Well. This is bad. Kalon flexed against his cuffs. You have a plan. She grinned. I always have a plan. The escape. The trick with energy cuffs, Lyra had learned during the Martian uprising, was that they shorted out when exposed to ionic interference. And Kalon's wings? They thrummed with atmospheric charge. It hurt like hell. The second his feathers brushed her restraints, electricity seared up her arms. But the cuffs fizzled. Kalon's brow arched. Resourceful. Thanks. She massaged her wrists. Now your turn. A quick strike to the weak point of his wing joint, and his bonds snapped. He stood, flexing his injured wing with a wince. Lyra eyed the door. Can you fight? Kalon's smile was all teeth. Can you keep up? The storm unleashed. They moved like shadows through the Scytheri ship. Kalon's wind blades carved through patrols before they could scream. Lyra fought dirty, wrenching loose pipes into clubs, using ventilation shafts to ambush. At the hangar, they found their gear, and a surprise. Joran, bleeding but alive, slumped against a stolen Scytheri skiff. Took you long enough. Lyra hauled him up. Where's Elora? Gone. Draxus took her straight to the command ship. Joran tossed Lyra a plasma pistol. She left this though. A data chip. Kalon slotted it into the skiff's console. Lyra's face flickered on screen. If you're seeing this, I'm already dead. The High Council never wanted peace, they wanted Earth's core. Gaia's wrath was their tool. But there's a failsafe. The weapon's AI is sentient. It chooses its wielder. The image glitched. Find the heart. And trust each other. Kalon's fists clenched. What in the void does that mean? Lyra revved the skiff's engines. It means we're not just stopping a weapon. She met his gaze. We're stealing it. The jump. The skiff shot into the black, Scythery fighters already in pursuit. Behind them, Earth hung like a wounded jewel. Ahead, the Zephyrian command ship, wreathed in storm clouds of its own making. Joran manned the guns. This is insane. Lyra grinned. Yep. Kalon, his wings spread for balance as the skiff shuddered, stared at the approaching ship. If we survive this. Lyra cut him off. When? The Scythery missiles locked on. The command ship's defenses powered up. And Gaia's wrath pulsed below, its heart beating like a war drum.